self-sufficiency is the greatest thing you can teach your children. Like, we are trying to keep ourselves busy and justify our existence as parents by doing everything for our kids. I totally disagree with that. I think that self-sufficiency is the best thing you can do for your children.
Welcome to You're Allowed to Hate Your Husband, a modern-day love story. I am Remy Stern. I'm a relationship coach, and we are going to talk all things relationships, from being single to dating to being engaged, married. Who you marry is the most important decision you will ever make.
If you're looking for a wife, which is a beautiful thing to do, the best thing to do is to choose wisely.
If you're thinking, what am I doing wrong? Everybody else has it right. Then you are in the right place, because trust me, nobody knows what they're doing. I'm so excited. Please hop right in, listen to this episode, listen to this series, and we are so excited that you are joining us here. I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode with Emily Tisch Sussman. She is someone who I look up to so much. She has a podcast called She Pivots, which is all about when your personal life makes your professional life pivot. And she's had the coolest pivots in her professional life and is now showing other women that it's okay when your personal life affects your professional life. She's a mother of 3 and has so many business ventures and hobbies and things that she is building and growing and just making such a big impact on this world today. And she's very open and raw in her life about being a mom, having businesses. Really, when life gets overwhelming, what she does, she's so funny and real and just a breath of fresh air. Exactly what we all need to hear to be like, oh, so it's not just me. But she's also the biggest, overachiever, does everything, just brilliant woman. And you guys have to listen to this episode, so please enjoy. I am so excited to have Emily Tisch Sussman on the podcast today. She is a professional. It's almost more intimidating to have people who do both ends, like the ones who ask the questions and I guess get to be on. Isn't it like I used to be interviewed on the other side. Now I interview. So it's hard to flip back and forth between interviewee and interview. Do you find that too or no?
I do. I do actually. I might actually just start asking you questions in the middle
Literally,
of this.
that's me.
It happened on the last podcast I went on. And then in the middle, I was like, but how do you feel about that?
By the way, it is a little bit of like a therapy session too. Sometimes I'm like, no, but tell me, how are you feeling about that? We did it one day where we were on someone's podcast and then they flipped it 2 seconds later and they were on ours, and it was the biggest mind trip. So you have your own podcast, She Pivots, that is brilliant to the core. I've been binge listening, and I cannot wait to talk about the episodes that I've been binge listening. But can you share with the audience who you are, what She Pivots is, so that they can really get the feel for it all?
Yeah. So She Pivots is a podcast where I interview women who have changed their lives drastically. Like something happened, something really big happened where they had one career before, something big happened and changed their perspective, and they ended up with a totally new career and success that they couldn't have found had they not gone through all of these different things. And the reason I started the podcast is because it happened to me and I needed inspiration. So I'm a lawyer by training. I had 15, 20 years working in political strategy, and I did it at really high levels. I was very successful in my political career. I was on TV as a commentator. I was on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. The Obama White House would outsource political strategy for me to run for campaigns for them. And then I had 3 kids really quickly. I had no twins. I just had 3 kids in succession. And it tanked my career. And my whole identity had been tied to being really good at my job. So without my career, I did not feel a connection to my kids and really until they hit 2. And I was really shameful about that, especially because I felt like, well, if I just gave up this career, I was so mad at myself for I didn't feel like I wanted to give up my career. I actually wanted to be working. I didn't want to be home with my kids. But my career was inaccessible to me because I had 3 kids in 3 years and, of course, a global lockdown, which cut off any access to childcare. So that was a big piece of it as well. But so, my career tanked, my identity tanked with it. I was physically all over the place, recovering. I mean, I had a baby 3 weeks before the lockdown. And I needed someone to tell me I was gonna be okay. And, I needed them to be really specific about it. Like, how am I gonna be okay? Because I don't hear any narratives about this. Like, everything I hear is conversation about choosing, like choosing to stay home, choosing to be with your kids. And I didn't choose any of those things. So I needed to hear I needed to hear stories of women who had not only gone through like the same thing as me, but I actually wanted to hear like way worse. Like this has to be minor compared to what other women have gone through. So, like that would make me feel better. So that was how I structured the show. Is like I really just wanted to hear the stories of women who had persevered and found a different version of success. And I wanted them to tell me I was going to be okay.
Isn't that kind? Because that was for me as well. It was almost like a therapy. Like I needed to know that other people were going through, relationship challenges and this type of thing. It's like as a woman, I sat down and I said to you, like, I have been running around today because I had to run, take my daughter to the doctors, run back. And I love my career so much. But sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? Like I could just wake up and I could just go and enjoy my day and walk around and like, what should I do next type of thing? But I'm like scheduled to this. And it's that big question mark as a woman. It's like we have this. I think there's a biological pull. I know there's also a societal pull of being like the stay-at-home mom, but there is I think I'm pretty sure biological like when you have kids wanting to be there for them, but then there's if you have that itch, which I do, you do, to go do something and build something and create something and be something, it's this constant seesaw back and forth, like pulling you this way, pulling you that way. So for you, you've had kind of these two career paths, or maybe more than that, probably a whole lot more. But we've got like the big corporation half, would you say?
Like the big political, yeah.
Then kind of working for yourself, right?
Mhm.
How was that transition for you? Going from being under someone to kind of being, if you don't show up, it doesn't happen.
Well, I think not that hard for me. I think if anything, I miss the camaraderie of it, of like feeling like we were all in something together. I did start to miss that. But I'm a pretty big self-starter. All of the jobs that I had in politics, they had all been created to bring me in. Because I think I'm very good at looking at white space and figuring out how to create structure from get to A to B when no structure exists. So I did that when there were organizations I wanted to work for. I would look at them and then I would present to them and say, you are deficit in this way, and I am your answer for that. And by the way, I think that people can do that in any field. Like look at an organization and look at what they're doing. And if you can say to them, I have identified this deficit in what you are executing, and here's why I am the right person to fix it, they're going to think to themselves, oh, I do have that deficit. And now every candidate they'll bring in will be judged against you. And so I did that over and over again. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But that was how I got almost every political job that I had. So in that sense, it was sort of the same. But now, in the first couple of years that I left the think tank, I was doing political consulting for like 2 years and had a political podcast. But I was working myself insane. Like I was working insane hours. I was pushing myself physically so hard because I had to prove that I was the same worker that I was before. And after about 2 years when I was making myself absolutely sick, I mean like physically sick, I pulled back and I said, who am I proving this to? Nobody can see me. Like, not only do I not care what anybody else thinks, I kind of cared. Like, I wanted people to think that I was still the same hard worker. I was actually working in my closet, like on the floor of my closet, because that was the one place that I could close my door and my kids wouldn't come in. But people literally cannot see me. Like, they don't know how many hours I'm putting in on this. So maybe I should chill out and not make myself physically sick.
It's so crazy. What do you think it is about? I think there's specifically with women trying to do everything for everybody and be there for ourselves and have the career and have this, like, it really is this mind, like, I have the same thing. I'll be like, okay, everyone, I'm going to bed. Like, I'll pretend like I'm going to bed at like 9 p.m. and I'll get in bed and I'll like secretly pull my computer out and like start doing work in bed, trying to like make it look like I'm like So like this happens once in a while. Obviously, a huge thing for me is I want a freedom-based business. So I want to be able to, I had to take my daughter to the doctor this morning. I want to be able to take her to the doctor and not be, you know, 1000% tied to my work. I want to be a mom. So I'll pull out my computer, I'll go like this and I'll slip it under the bed before I go to bed. It's like such a crazy thing that we maybe feel like we have to prove it to ourselves, to other people. I don't know what it is, but like for you who maybe has to work, maybe doesn't, like what is it that drives you so much to be so spectacular, over the top, like successful in all that you do and being a mother and all of this? What is it that drives you so much?
Well, I think that there's just something in me that drives me to work kind of to an extreme on everything that I do, which I don't say that as a humble brag. Like it is at, it does harm me in some ways. Like I lose, maybe I can't keep in touch with relationships at the same time, like with friendships or, like maybe I can't keep up to it, but like I can't stop myself. And that was very hard when I didn't have a really defined job. It made me crazy. It makes me very productive and it makes me able to do a lot of things. But, I just have to prioritize differently. But by the way, I want to go back to what you were saying. I think that now we've kind of swung in a direction of self-care. I think we've actually swung too extreme in a direction of self-care to act like it's not a good thing that you're finishing up your work at the end of the day. Like I would actually rather that format. I'm not a night person. Like I actually legitimately go to bed at 9, but I'm a morning person. So if I have things that I want to get done, I'll do them before my kids get up. And I'm not embarrassed about that. Like, I don't think it makes me like a crazy workaholic. I hold high standards and I hold high standards to myself first and foremost of anybody. And then I do hold very high standards for the people that work with me. And I will let them know if they're not meeting the standards and how we're going to improve it. But I actually think this has happened to me recently where I think that people have confused like my niceness for being kind of lax. I just realized I'm probably not coming across as very nice in your podcast. And they're probably like, she's not that nice.
Wait, no, you automatically just have the most like relaxed energy to you with your fun hair. Like I love it. It's so but you're right. Like if you're a nice person, it could come across as like, yeah, whatever, do whatever you want. Like all is well, but you hold high standards.
No, I hold extremely high standards throughout, and I don't drop them. And I think that part of the reason that I've been able to be successful at this point in my life is that I don't perseverate on things. Like I don't spend a lot of time thinking about what other people are going to think of it or whether it's the popular thing. Like I move on. Like I'll feel my feelings and I move to the next thing. And I don't waste a lot of energy on sort of like generalized anxiety about things or what people are going to think about. I think it actually leaves me with a lot of bandwidth to be productive. And I think the only reason I've been able to get to this place is because I know that I've worked hard. And I know that I've earned my place in doing it. And building up that confidence and that level of self-esteem has only come because I did really hard things. And they were not fun. They were not fun. Like I spoke to our high school business club last week. And they asked me a question. They were like, it was some version of like, I couldn't even understand the question actually. And they rephrased it as, should you chase your dream or should you be more realistic? And I was like, that is a ridiculous question. First of all, it's a ridiculous question, but like, not everything is about having fun at every moment. Like I'm a lawyer by training. I didn't love every day of law school. And my dream job was only open to me because I am a lawyer. And my next dream job was only open to me because I had worked hard in a field that nobody thought was possible. Right? So like because that I've worked to build that self-esteem and confidence, I don't have to spend a lot of time kind of obsessing about how things resonate with other people. I am true to myself now first and foremost.
I love that so much. And I do think, and it's probably a generational thing, that some people in a certain generation might not be willing to put in the hard work to get what you want. And we see things, first of all, it's all social media, realistically. Like we see things look so easy for everybody all of the time. And for example, for myself, like I really do practice what I preach, where I believe like, yes, having the self-care is super important. Have we swung the pendulum in way too far in all of these directions?
Yeah.
100%. But I find, I had to take my daughter to the doctors today. I also was like, I was working a little harder it's so funny. I feel like I work on the weekends because I don't have my nanny. So I'm like the one doing everything. So I was like, I need to get to my workout class. Like I do have my priorities that I check before I get to like certain things. But so I practice what I preach. I make sure to like not be killing myself over things, like really be intentional, be all of these things. But I put in a lot of hard work, and I really do believe, and you and I spoke about this last time, that when you go through a challenge and when it is a little bit harder, that's when you're able to be successful and come up with something. And I'm sure because you care about things and you've been through challenges, like you said, like it was not fun for you when all of a sudden you're like, who am I? Where am I? I don't even feel like I can be the best mom because I'm not. Like that was probably an extremely challenging time for you. And now you're turning it around and helping so many people through it. So I feel like we too often shy away from the working hard and the challenges, but that's really where the secret sauce is. Would you find?
Oh, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's not about like finding the right under eye cream. Like that's all superficial. Like I think we've just gotten superficial in evaluating, like looking for like quick fixes. Cause I mean, and by the way, like I feel the same way about my parenting that I was so scared of having kids. I really didn't want my life to change. Like that was just it. Like I was like, I'm actually good. Like I work hard. I get accolades for it. Like I'm good with my life. And that was sort of like the boss mom moment. I was like, well, I guess I'll just like breastfeed and carry this baby around and be a boss mom. But like, actually, I find this baby so annoying and I really just want to be focusing on my work. So it took me a while to find the balance. It really wasn't until every kid turned 2 that I started to feel like a real genuine connection with them where like the good outweighed the bad. And I didn't just find them annoying. Like I found that sort of like clinginess to survival, I found very annoying.
Wow.
And
It's so refreshing, by the way, to hear things like this because the whole idea of you're allowed to hate your husband obviously is not to hate your husband. It's to love your husband. But I realized that people were like beating around the bush when like there's little kids and I'm changing this amount of diapers, you're changing, and all of them were saying about their husbands like, oh, he's driving me crazy. And I just realized it was like, we're all allowed to hate them sometimes. It's not the worst thing in the world. And there's someone said it about kids too. They were like, you're allowed to, and I don't want to say the word hate to kids, but like they're allowed to drive you insane. And you're allowed to have that thought like, oh my God, what did I do at any of these things? Cause it's okay. It doesn't mean that like you're the world's worst mom. You weren't supposed to have like, it's okay to have these feelings and to feel like, you know what? I wasn't able to fully connect to my kids until they were 2 and they could turn around and say something to me and tell me how they were feeling and talk about it. And I could explain things to them. Like I didn't just have to hold them. Like it is so refreshing. I'm sure someone out there who's listening has had that exact same thought. So thank you for being honest.
I felt so guilty about it. And when my third one was when she was little and she was like trying to get my attention, I was like, oh, just hang on, little one. Like you'll get your time. It's not now. It's not now, but you'll get your turn.
I've actually heard that a lot. It's like you kind of have to like lose that guilt about spending time with it. Like the first one needs your attention so much. Then the second one gets there and third one, you'll get your time.
And believe me, we are reaping the consequences of it. My third one is a fighter. Like she fights. She wakes up every morning choosing violence. Like she fights for her place. And I've done this to her.
It's so funny because I see now after everyone close to me having kids, I'm like, oh my God, first kid syndrome. You are the center of the universe, the first kid. Like everything revolves around this first kid. Then the second one comes in and the first one's like, wait, are you guys cheating on me? Like, why is there a second little thing coming in here? And the second thing gets no attention. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm definitely the first kid. I've got a younger sister and I'm most definitely the first one. Then she's most definitely, it just all makes perfect sense. So I want to go back.
There is something to it. But wait, but I do want to say that, like in how this applies, like, putting in the work with parenting has actually really, I've seen it myself that like I was so scared of having kids that I didn't listen to parenting podcasts. I didn't read parenting books. I was allergic to anything that looked like spending any time of my brain on parenting. I didn't even go to that class where they taught you how to change a diaper. Like I didn't know how to change a diaper until I did it myself with my own child.
Me neither, by the way.
Coming home from the hospital. Like I'd never done it before. I never babysat. And then I think particularly during the pandemic, it was really hard because it was like, oh my God, how does this feel so natural for all these people to have like enrichment activities and like they're putting thought into it. Like it was so bad. I was like, God, I'm just like the worst parent ever. And I didn't read any books. And I think because I didn't do that, I had to figure it out on my own. And it was really hard. Like I felt like I had no skills. I felt like there was something wrong with me that I didn't have this connection with my kids. It was really depressing and really hard. But now my kids are 7, 6, and 4. And I have genuine connections with each of my kids that I created on my own that is individual to every kid. And I feel like I'm a pretty good mom.
Yes. I actually know you are because my amazing sister-in-law, who I love, has told me yes, you are. And a boss mama.
Ah, thanks. But my choices are all my own. Like they might not be somebody else's choices, but I own them and I know that they're the right thing for my kid and I don't have to feel like I make a different choice for them just because some book told me I was supposed to.
I literally have the chills all over. So thank you. And we haven't had enough mamas, boss mamas, just any type of mama on this podcast because I think a lot of people, first of all, no one talks about this stuff before you give birth. And I always say there really should be some sort of like, hey, I'm just going to prep you on everything that's about to come your way when you have this baby. Like, I know there's the books, I know there's the podcast, I know those things. But like you said, all of these thoughts cross people's minds and nobody talks about it. And it is so nice to put out there and be like, not only is it okay, but it's actually good because then you're going to come up with the way that you are going to parent and that your kid is going to receive the parenting. And for example, for me, like I thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, not even work for a second. Like that's what my mom did. And I loved it for her. You know, it was so special. She was at everything. Again, I still want to be at everything, but she was like so, so, so present. And now I see, and I'm going to get to my question next, but now I see where that's affecting her, you know, when her kids are out of the house and she's like, but where am I? Sorry to out you, mom, but where am I in this equation?
That's common.
And now very common. And now for me, I'm sitting here and it's that seesaw of sometimes I wake up so energized, like running to my work, so excited. And then other days I wake up and I'm like this pit in my stomach where I have a full schedule and I kind of want to be at my daughter's class that day, but I put myself into this full schedule and I'm like, but why am I doing this to myself? And I think that this is a uniquely mother kind of mental dilemma we might go through. So I kind of want to look at different stages of this. And you've been through them. But for the mom, for the woman who is, and they don't even have to be a mom, whatever stage in life they're at, that they have this desire to do something big and they feel that lack, that lack. And I would say this probably comes up for motherhood more so of like, and they almost feel selfish that they have this desire to do something. Like you've spoken to so many women, you've done it yourself. How do you even tell someone in that stage to start something, to go? And I actually love I'm sorry to hop in and give your advice for a second, but I love this idea of being like, where in the world do you see a deficit? Something that's not working, and how can you provide for it? But do you have any advice to that woman who has that desire to do something and doesn't know where to begin?
I mean, I think that's all of us at some point that was, by the time we're moved to do something, it's gotten big. Like it's sat in you for a long time. You've thought about it. So I think I'm just a big proponent of like, just start with one step. Like start having a conversation with someone to say, I'm looking to learn a little bit more about the background of this problem. I'm looking to learn what your experience was like working in this field. Like, I think that's like a big first place to step. But also, two things. One, be really realistic about your bandwidth right now. Like when you have young kids, you are physically tired. You don't have a lot of bandwidth. So that's okay. Just acknowledge that that is part of the process. Like it's not going to be that forever. Right now, you're gaining different perspective. And you'll have a different kind of bandwidth soon. Like, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's hard not to worry about it. But like,
yes.
It's part of the journey. Like it's part of the process. And that actually brings me to what the second point is that I think there's an overarching narrative that if you have one career and you step back from it to have kids, maybe you've left it entirely, maybe you've taken a smaller job and scaled it down, that you're losing skills. I think what's incredibly important is to think about the fact that we're gaining a different kind of skills. Maybe it's the same skills, maybe it's a different set of skills, but I'll give you examples of this. I am an excellent multitasker. Like I was when I was in my job, I could manage different campaigns at once. And now a part of my brain is now being taken up by thinking about my kids. And so I have to compartmentalize my day differently. Like I don't find balance every single day. I don't have like a great workout, then a great work day, then a great kid pickup. I don't find balance every day. I find it like in chunks of a couple of days at a time. That like some days I'm really focused on working, some days I'm really focused on spending time with my kids. And so I have to think about my multitasking in different ways. And that skill set has been honed by having 3 kids in 3 years. Like I would not be the good worker that I am now had I not gone through this.
Oh my God, it's so good. And this is why doing a podcast is the best thing ever, because it's therapy to me. And it's so true. First of all, I'm just going to call them out because I love them so much. I think asking questions in the world is the best thing to do. There's some things brewing inside of you. Go ask. Go ask other people who are doing it. Go ask the people who it might be affecting. So like, let's say for a coach, because this is something that I do and I know very well. If you have the urge to go help people, maybe go ask other people who are doing what you want to do or something similar. And then go ask the people who you want to help and say, hey, what do you need more of? Just asking and taking one step at a time is so smart, because we also feel like we have to take it all on at once and jump in fully, whatever it is that someone wants to do. They feel like they have to do it all, and you don't.
You can, in fact, you can't.
No.
Who could?
Yes, one tiny step at a time. And I say small hinges swing massive big doors. So if you get paralyzed by the fact that you're like, I have so much to do, that's the only way that you're going to fail. Sorry to hop in and give my advice, but if you can take one little step each and every single day, you will end up where you want to go.
I would also say the inverse is true, that if somebody asks you for advice, like you are also probably holding something that somebody else is looking for, wants to learn more about. And so if somebody asks you for advice, I find that people are actually quite generous and do want to engage and do want to help. But, maybe if it's someone you don't know that well, like they put themselves out there. And so making time for them matters a lot more to them than you think it might.
Oh my God, I love that. And even that might be the secret to what you're supposed to do. Like if someone comes to you and asks you something, that might be your gift to the world. So that might be what you should lean into and be like, oh, like, let me help you. But then how can I go find one other person who might be looking for the same thing? Like if you just start paying attention to those little moments, all of the answers might be there. I love that. I love that. Then second up of what you said was that kind of just accept where you're at in your life, right? I have an almost 2-year-old, and hopefully we'll have a growing family at some point. And again, like this is why it's a therapy session for me. You have 3 kids, but sometimes I'm like, I am doing it all, and I've got it under control. And then other days I'm like, no, I don't have any of this under control, and I'm unwell, and somebody help me, and someone take care of me, and where's the person to do all of this for me? Like that, it's a very normal feeling, and to accept it and to be like, okay, there will be days like that. There will be days that I can get my workout in, days that I'm drowning underwater, and like go to bed, wake up the next day, and you're going to be okay. Like all is well.
Yeah. And that's totally normal and totally expected. Like something changed a couple of years ago, maybe like a decade ago, where there's this idea that we have to be maybe it is social media. We have to be perfect in every aspect of our life at all times. That's so unrealistic. That's so crazy. Actually, my friend Reshma Sanjani, she started Girls Who Code and Moms First. She said this to me. I love this so much. She said, I know what the model of this is, and it's my husband. He does not feel guilt when he leaves. He considers everything that he does in the home to be like a gift, but it's not required, so he doesn't feel the weight of it on top of him. Like I love, like if you start to think of yourself more in that position, which honestly gets easier as your kids hit like 2, 3, 4, it is really hard when they are babies. Or in my case, I felt no connection and was like, here's the baby, please take it away. Please, somebody keep this baby alive.
Yes, hand her back when she can talk.
I'm doing a horrible job. Like, and actually with that like first kid, second thing, it also gets a little bit easier that like you just don't take everything so seriously. Like when my first kid would cry incessantly, it seeped into the crevices of my brain. Like it filled up every soul that I had to do something about it. And I would get so mad at my mom who would say, well, sometimes babies just cry. And I was like, you don't know anything. Like, stop. This is terrible. And now, like, I always have a kid crying or complaining or asking for something. And also, I will also say on that note, self-sufficiency is the greatest thing you can teach your children. Like, we are trying to keep ourselves busy and justify our existence as parents by doing everything for our kids. I totally disagree with that. I think that self-sufficiency is the best thing you can do for your children.
Tony Robbins actually says this. He's like, I don't want to teach my kids like that life is easy or how to be happy. I want to teach them how to be resilient and strong, because that's really what a kid needs or someone needs in life in order to be successful and exceed. So that over protecting kids and over being there for them and doing everything for them is actually harming them more than it's helping. And it's so hard as a mother specifically. And I find it so funny that you say this, like, model your husband's behavior. This is why I think this is a very uniquely woman-based mental dilemma. And I do think there's societal and biological. I think they do go hand in hand. So like we can't just say that it's fully society being like women are the stay at home and men are the go out and then that's the mental thing. Like, but I feel like we try to be every single role, the best this, the best that, the best friend. You were like, okay, some of my relationships might go away, but like we think that we have to be the social and on the school board and on this board.
Although I literally am on the school board.
I know you are. And this is why you're the most like, you're doing everything. And please teach us. Broadway, the women's soccer team, like you are doing a lot. And I know that you're an amazing mom. So this is what, and I think you just giving permission to people to saying like, it's okay when you're not perfect. Like, and you've heard so many women talk about this. So it's not just your experience, you're also gathering all of this. So in the moments where it feels like too much, do you have tools or do you just let go and accept it?
I'm pretty intense. I'm a pretty intense person. So I kind of go, like I push myself to my limit and then I crash. And it might not be the healthiest way to do it, but you know what? It's my way. Like it's how I'm never going to really have balance. I'm never going to really slow down. On the faith of a friend of mine who's very Zen, I did a 3-hour breathing course and I thought I was going to lose my mind. Like she keeps asking me if I want to do the updates or whatever. And I'm like, you got me to breathe for 3 hours. That was good. Like I am the least Zen person. I don't like, that's just not me. It's just not my life. I am happier being productive. I am happier doing stuff. And then sometimes I just need to crash a little bit. I mean, I do get overwhelmed sometimes. But being productive is what feeds me. Like it makes me feel like I am having an impact. I like to be really present. You know, the thing that you mentioned is that we just bought control of a women's soccer team, the Gotham FC in the New York, New Jersey area. My sister runs the team. She feels a lot more overwhelmed than I do. Let me tell you, she's like running the team. But, you know, I spend probably 30 to 40% of my time on building up the team now. And I think that so I've gotten busier over the last year. We just bought the team in the last year. And I've gotten a lot busier. Look, I've always worked longer hours than my husband. It's who I am. It's who he is. And it's gotten much more pronounced and I'm out of the house much more. And so I've had to move some things that had traditionally been on me to him. And we didn't have like a sober conversation where like he's going to become more of the primary parent. It just kind of happened one thing at a time. Like at first he started scheduling the doctor's appointments because I kept missing them. And then he started taking them. And now he does the camp forms. And oh my God, the other day he was complaining nonstop. For 3 kids to go to 2 camps is like a bibliography. Like it is so many camp forms. And he was like, my God, I've been spending hours doing these camp forms. They're not going to the moon. And I was like, no sympathy. Like I've done them every other year. Yeah, this is what it's like, you know? So like when we get notes from the teacher that say, you know, the kid has to wear this or bring something in, I forward it to my husband. And I'm like, you are more in the headspace for it right now than I am. And maybe that'll change, but right now that's our reality. And that is how I get more productive, is that we have to be able to find more of a balance where he has to take on more of these things that he grew up in like a very traditional, like Irish cop family. And his mom cannot stop praising him and his brother for the fact that they know how to change diapers. I swear to God. And I am like gonna lose it. I'm like, how low is our bar?
Oh, that yes, yes, yes. I thought you meant they're so good that people are like, go for them. But yes, the fact that men are praised for doing diapers, yes.
Oh my God, it makes me crazy. But he has to evolve with me in order for me to be productive.
Pretty much what I'm gathering is like whatever season in life you're at, whatever day you're on, if it's the most insane day, like it's okay. We're all so strung up, and I'm gonna bring it back to social media. I think it has a large part to do with that because if our standard is like, oh my God, she's the mom who's like taking her kids to school every day, and she's also has this massive business she's running, and her husband's also crushing it at work, and her kids are also sweet and happy. Like we drive ourselves insane thinking that it should be all together. But what you're saying is like, no, right now I'm in the season of like, I have this and I have chills again thinking about it. Like, not only is it a project you're doing, but it is a women's soccer team. How much fun is that? And showing these women that like, we are going to make this the biggest thing in the entire world. And like, also, you have daughters?
I have 2 daughters and a son. Yeah.
You have 2 daughters. Like, not only for them to look up and see mama doing like the coolest things, but to see her pushing other women to be the best version, like that's so cool. It's so, so, so cool.
And by the way, for my son too.
Yes.
Like, I
even
think-
more so.
Like I think we've done a lot of work societally over the last like decade and a half about lifting up that women can do anything. And our daughters truly believe it. Like they really do believe they can do anything. But we didn't do the same amount of work for men. We didn't also say that men can do anything. And that includes being the primary parent. That includes foregoing an income to be childcare. That includes showing sensitivity. That includes supporting their partner. Like men can do anything, and we have to start expecting them to if we want women to truly be able to access their full range of potential.
Yes. I think that we forgot about the men in the equation a little bit, which is okay because we're here also talking about the pendulum swinging. Like we have swung in each direction and we swung super far in the women, like, go, you do it, you go do your thing. But like, there is a point that I think men are like, wait, but like, where do we fit in this equation if we're not the ones who are changing diapers, if we're not the ones who are crying when we get sad, but you guys are now the bosses? And like, it's a messy thing. So to be like, this can look different. The family unit can look like the dad's doing the forms sometimes and the mom's going out and working. What would you want for your daughters? Like, what would you want for your sons to see, to look up to kind of like, this is going to be a huge piece of advice that I want you to live by for the rest of your life?
I want them to be true to themselves and to work hard because I think they know who they are then. Like I want them to really be so clear in their core of who they are, that they are resilient and that, you don't have to be worried about circumstances changing around you. It's actually predictable. They will change. They have to change. But if you know who you are to your core, then you can adapt.
The one thing you can be certain on is that life will not be easy and that there will be changes. Like you said, I don't care how much money someone has. I don't care how beautiful they are and how perfect of a body they have. Like life, whatever we're going to look at merits and be like, oh, that's what I want. Like life is going to give you challenges. And if we don't expect to have to be resilient, then we're going to crumble and burn from them. But if you're like, no, first and foremost, who are you? And how can you be the boldest expression of who you are, what you care about? Go and work hard. No soft generation. Like we've over softened us. Like go work really hard and give something to the world. Like I feel like something that you're also saying is the more you care about giving something to the world, the better you'll be, the happier you'll be. Like if you're in service of others, you're kind of bound to be successful. And that's what you're doing here is in service of others. And it's so cool. So you said that we've got Gotham.
Yeah.
We've got She Pivots. What else is on our plate these days?
I am on the school board. I spent last year doing a deep dive into theater investing, and I invested in 2 Broadway shows. One was nominated for a Tony for Best Musical, Shucked, which is going to tour now, and How to Dance in Ohio. Um, taking a little break from theater investing because Gotham is taking up so much of my time. And we had a really it's so funny when you're saying, like, what do we want them to see when we get out there? It's on so many levels. Like, it's what I want my kids to see. It's what I want to put out into the world. It's what I want the players to see. Like, I really want the players to know that we see them as full people. We care about them. We support about them. We support them. Because unfortunately, that actually hasn't been the history of women's soccer in America globally. But last night we had this, now I'm reflecting on it. We had this like really beautiful moment. So we won at home last night. We've been tying at home. We've been winning on the road. We've won 5 games in a row. But so we finally won at home last night.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And as we were on the way out, my sister and I each have 3 kids. So we have 6 kids in total that love to play together. And as we were on the way out, our general manager was like, "Do you want to come down to the field and congratulate the players?" And we're like, "Absolutely." So we take our circus, we go down to the field. Our general manager, Yael Averbush West, she has 2 kids under 4. Her kids are running around. Our coach, he has a kid who's 2. One of our players, Crystal Dunn, she has a kid who just turned 2 today, actually. So ownership, general manager, coach, star player, we all have our kids running around together playing. And we're like, this is a professional operation. Like, we show up as leadership exactly who we are. And we made all the kids race. Maybe that was too competitive. I don't know. But
No, that's so cute.
but we had all of our kids running around together. And I think, I just kind of got like little glimpses out of the corner of like our players watching all of this happen and realizing that, like, if we're going to bring our families and if we're going to show up entirely as we are, then they can too.
So cool. And your whole idea with She Pivots, and I want to know like how you think that people can really apply this, is that your personal life like can affect your professional life and does and is your professional life. So again, for people out there who maybe want, like, how do they take their personal life and allow it to also be their professional life? How do you merge the two?
Well, it does affect it. We've just gotten so trained to talk about them and think about them in 2 different buckets. Right? Like, if you ended up leaving work for a couple of years, maybe to take care of a sick parent, you would find a professional reason to like paper over that and kind of ignore it in your resume. But don't. Talk about it and say, I gained more empathy. I gained financial management. I gained team management. Right? Like, you gained a lot of skills. So you can merge the 2. It's not all about being able to find work that feels aligned with your hobby, which I think is a narrative that actually is not going to serve us. Because first of all, once you start doing it as work, it has to make money, and then it's not that much fun. And that really kills the fun out of the hobby.
Yes. Work, Jonathan always says, he's like, listen, work is work. They don't call it fun for a reason. Like, and I love what I do so much, but do you think I love like the little tasks that I have to do? Like, no way. I don't love email. I don't love Insta. Like, there's certain things that like I just don't love doing, but work is work. But I love this idea that you learn from life as well. And as I enter the stage of like thinking about growing our family, I'll say to my husband, I'm like, I've put so much into my business, and thank God it's at a place where it's skyrocketed. And actually, the funny thing is, it is never done better and been more successful than when I have a kid and I've been like running around doing, like, the busier I get, the better with my personal life too, the better my business does. It's so weird. Whereas like when I had all the time on my hands, like I got stuff done and it did well. But I do think actually getting skills from other areas in your life will benefit you in your professional life as well. So I've said to my husband, I'm like, I'm so scared, kind of like you, that this thing that I built, if when the time is right, when I get pregnant and have more kids, like, does it go away? I'm so nervous. All I'm doing right now is setting it up so that it can run itself. He's like, no. And he's very smart. You guys all know Jonathan. He was like, I'm telling you, Remy, the more you honor your personal self, and that also includes your professional, I do think that it will improve your professional life. So the fact that you're here and you own this amazing team, and these women are professional soccer players, meaning they pour their heart and soul into their career, and you guys are all there with your kids together, And it's just the most like wholesome. It's every aspect of your lives are together with your sister and the cousins. Like it's not the idea of you can have it all because everyone's like, okay, but then if I have it all, it must feel like it's just easy and going smooth. But you can have it all. You just have to accept that it's chaotic and it's not going to be perfect. And we live in this world of we think it should be perfect. It's not. It's going to be hard. It's going to be messy. It's going to look different than maybe what you expected. But you can have it all. You can have the kid and all of it, right?
It might just look a little different than you think it will. I mean, let's not forget that I live 2.5 hours away from the stadium with no traffic.
Oi.
Yeah, I live
I literally
really
live
far.
like 10 minutes away from something in the city, a walk, and I'm like, too far, can't make it. Sorry.
I live really far from the stadium. So my kids got home at like 11 o'clock last night
Love it.
and were disasters getting to school this morning. And they were like, can I sleep in? Can I miss school? And I said, look, if you're having a real problem, I'm sure the nurse will let you lie down for a few minutes. But, this is how we get to do cool stuff that like we just have to push through.
That's resilience. It's not saying like life is going to be easy all the time. And this goes for kids for being like, no, it's not going to be easy all the time, but it's also parents, it's anybody being like, I'm okay with the struggle sometimes. And I really want to thank you for giving this to me for everybody because I hear a lot of this from my followers, from my community saying like, I feel like I'm about to fall apart. Like I feel like everything's going to crumble and burn. And you're saying sometimes that happens. Listen, last Mother's Day was literally like, I don't want to say the worst day of my life.
Oh no, Mother's Days are the worst. Mother's Days are the worst.
This year, I learned from my lesson. I said, all I want is I sleep in today. I go to my hot yoga class and I don't pick up one thing off the ground. I don't care anything else. It was the best day ever.
You know why? Because you set realistic expectations.
Those are the things I needed. Last year, my daughter was car sick. Everyone's playing tennis. Everyone's golfing. Everyone's having the best day ever. I'm like rushing to get there in my little white outfit. She starts throwing up all over me. I'm in the middle of nowhere next to JFK. I'm like petrified. I'm crying. I'm like unwell. And I left for Mexico. Then I literally booked a ticket to Mexico the next day. And I was like, I don't care what's happening. I need to breathe for a second. And that's okay. We live in a world where it doesn't seem okay, but it's okay. So I want to thank you for giving this to me, for giving it to my followers, to my listeners, to hopefully farther, huge ripple effect. If you were to give people that one advice, or maybe even to yourself at the time that you were like, I'm pivoting, this idea of she pivots and that time where you couldn't find yourself a little bit. You were like, I don't understand this whole mama thing at the moment. My career is gone, pandemic, starting a whole new thing. If you could give that version of yourself and everyone else out there who's maybe going through something like that, one piece of advice, what would it be?
I'd say it really goes back to setting expectations and that your definition of success has to change. Like it is changing and to be accepting of that. So I'll give you an example. Before I had kids, when I was in my political career, my version of success was very clear cut. Like it was a job title. It was how big a team did I manage? It was my compensation. It was where is my office? Like it was access to power. I had very clear metrics for what success meant. And then it was all gone. And so how could I see myself as anything other than a failure? So my version of success now is that I got to a soccer game last night and I dropped my kids off from school and I can make it to talk to you right now. I have not showered today. I don't have a title. My office is in my bedroom. Like all of those previous metrics of success don't exist for me anymore. And now I have a different version of success. And it's very fulfilling when I can think about it that way.
Oh my God, that is the most refreshing, like over the top amazing thing I have ever heard because same, I made it to my daughter's doctor's appointment this morning. I got my workout in, which I was like, I left 15 minutes early, but I made it in. I got there. Then I had the doctor's appointment after, but whatever. I got there. And I have my clients today. My mother-in-law's picking up my daughter because my nanny's going home sick. Like it is chaos. By no means is this, but it's okay. And the new metrics of success and sitting and actually like taking 1 minute to come up with this, because if you don't, you're subconsciously going to maybe feel like a failure all day long if you don't say like actually sit down and reevaluate being like, what is my metric for success? And because also last thing on this, which I love is like if you think your metric for success, let's say, for example, I think in terms of money, it's very easy to think of this. Like, I want to make $1 million. Guess what's going to happen when you get to $1 million? You're going to want to make 2. You're going to want to make 3. And your metric for success, just in general, this life, like, is going to keep going up. But saying like, I got this done today and I got to see my daughter, like coming up with your metric for success and saying I achieved it and recognizing each small step when you achieved it versus being like, always chasing after the shiny object that never really exists. So accepting chaos, coming up with your metric for success, and just being resilient and pushing through. Would you say that's kind of like that one? I mean, I'm taking your words and holding on to them for myself. Hopefully everyone can hear it. Would you say that's kind of like the biggest thing you'd want to leave anyone with today?
Yeah, definitely. I think you summed it up beautifully.
Oh my God, I don't know. You were brilliant, incredible. I appreciate you more than you know on every single layer of this. AK, these are therapy sessions. They're so good. People don't realize how much fun podcasts are. I love them.
I know.
to do them. So can you please tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find She Pivots, all of the amazing things you're doing? Where can they find you?
She Pivots comes out every Wednesday wherever you get podcasts. So you listen on Apple, Spotify, anywhere. You can get She Pivots. You can follow us on Instagram at She Pivots the podcast. Gotham FC plays just outside the city in New York. We have soccer games almost every week. It is truly the moment for women's soccer, women's sports.
I love it. Thank you so much. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope you liked it as much as we did. Now go send it to someone who needs to hear it, because we know that dating, relationships, marriage can be tough, but we want to make it less tough. And remember, you're allowed to hate your husband. Whatever you're feeling is allowed. So go send it to a friend, to your sister, your brother, maybe your boyfriend, a husband, whoever needs to hear this, send it to them. And while you're at it, click the follow button, click the review button. Always feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And we're so excited to see you in our next episode.